Good
Hey.
morning, everybody. Ooh, took us a little time this morning. It was sort of an interesting morning so far. However, we are here. Well, and we are going to be talking again about this thing people call agitation and aggression. So, in the late 1980s, around in the 1980s, an Israeli researcher Cohen and Mansfield, two people, actually put together an inventory. This inventory of possible behaviors that would signal for people in locations where care is trying to be delivered that had brain changes of dementia, that they were agitated and or aggressive. And so the goal was to document this with more specifics. So they were starting to look for what exactly are they doing? What are they saying? With what frequency? With what intensity? So that once we knew how bad it was, we could start to work on what do we do about it. Now, y'all know from my work over the years that I don't really agree with the idea of labeling behavior. I want us to look more thoroughly at the situation that triggered this. So I want to lay out sort of the framing of this because it is framed out. Now there's a couple of different versions of it, but the framing of it is there are categories. So one category is physical aggressive. Then there's physical non-aggressive. And then there's verbal aggressive. And then there's verbal non-aggressive. Okay. And for each of these behaviors, you would receive a rating of within the last 2 weeks, for instance, and that's the classic time. How often does this happen? One is never. Two is less than once a week. So, in other words, it's happened about once, apparently, because it's 2 weeks. And if it happens less than once a week, it means it's happened one time. You get a rating of two. If it happened once a week, once or twice a week, somewhere between 2 and 4 times a week, then we put it there. If it's several times a week, once a day or twice a day, several times a day, several times an hour. So, Matthew, what are you thinking so far at this? Just as I'm describing it, what comes first to your head and mind?
Yeah, I think especially this idea of breaking this up into time periods and trying to find out like how often these occur. And one of the very first thing that pops up in my head is about how us as human beings fluctuate constantly in what we're able to do, how we feel, our skills, our abilities, and things like that. And
Mhm,
feeling like there's maybe some mismatches here on how
mhm,
this data is being collected.
mhm. Do you think when they do this with the person living with dementia, they also do it with all the people around the person living with dementia?
Oh no. No, in fact I'm pretty sure usually it's whoever's the person around is the one who gets to say what it is, but the
Oh,
person who's living with
oh,
is
yeah.
often not getting to say what the other people around them are. Yeah, I don't
Oh,
think that
oh, and
happens.
there's not a third party observing this
Oh no,
necessarily.
yeah, no,
It
there's no
can be the
video.
person who's doing the reporting that gets to put down all the information. All right, well, now let's get a little more specific here. And Matthew can reference the tool. I'll put in the into the chat. I'll pull up the one that I do. There's two forms. There's the long form and the short form. I'll pull up the short form, excuse me, which has it into the two categories, which may be helpful. So let me pull that up right now and share that. So Matthew can share that one out. This is what's considered the short form. Okay, and then we'll talk about the long form, which is one of our colleagues sort of sent that in as a way of tracking sorts of things. So let me just read for you sort of the physical aggressive category. So hitting, including hitting yourself. So, Matthew, let me just say to you, oh, shoot, man, I totally forgot. How could I have forgotten that? That is so stupid. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. How you rating me?
I just ticked the box. Yeah, yeah, you did
Which
that.
one?
Well, that you hit yourself.
How often?
Well, you did it like 3 or 4 times there. I think
In an
within like
hour?
oh yeah,
In an
well,
hour?
less than right there just now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Tick.
right. So what if you come up from behind me and you were to pat me on the shoulder and I turn around and throw my hand up and it hits you? What's
Yeah,
that?
I guess I could take that within an hour too. That you
Okay.
had done that.
All
Yeah.
right. How about, okay, so the second one is kicking, grabbing onto people. So if I'm starting to fall or you're really close to me and you're doing something, and it's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? That counts, I guess.
Yeah.
Pushing. So pushing someone. So like if you're getting close to me and I push you back or I push you out of my way.
Yeah, I guess I could take the box in too. Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess there's no difference between throwing a pillow and throwing a vase
Well,
because it's
yeah,
just throwing things.
yeah. I
And
mean,
then we have biting. I don't know if we're biting people or biting objects or biting myself. They're scratching. Wow. I'm going to have to be careful when I get mosquito bites because I'm going to be in real trouble. And then we have spitting. Okay. I assume all of these are designed to identify. I mean, you can, hurting self or others. I don't know. I mean, so that's as opposed to all these other things. If I'm trying to hurt myself or others, but I haven't used one of these techniques,
and
then I,
Teepa, I want to pause this here just a second because I have a feeling some of our audience is probably like, well, some of this seems like common sense. Like, I mean, if they're doing that,
uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
wouldn't count it. Now, hold on. Let me pause you and let me bring you back to, okay, you've been living with somebody who you see as a challenge, as a everyday, your stress levels are up, you're not sleeping like you
Mhm.
used to, you're not taking care of yourself, you yourself are quote unquote agitated or irritable.
Sit
How
down.
like
What did I tell you? No, no, do not. Ouch. Stop. You just stop it. Get your hand off me.
Yeah, how likely are you now in that state of mind to see these different categories as that's what the person is doing because of your own brain state? Kind of going back to what Teepa, you were bringing up, this idea of how
Mhm.
often do the people around this person have one of these done.
Yep.
So like if you are sitting there scratching your mosquito bites and it scabs over and you keep scratching and scratching and it looks like you keep making it bleed, I could jump to the conclusion, well, she keeps hurting. I mean, why would she do that? She keeps
Well,
hurting
and
herself.
Matthew, how likely is it in that moment you would come up and say, "Hey, Teepa, don't do that. Here,
Yeah.
here,
No,
stop.
here,
Come
no.
on, Teepa,
That,
don't." And you
yeah.
try to take my hand, and I simply think I'm doing what I need to do to deal with what I'm feeling. So this is why I believe this whole scale really no longer has a place in dementia care. I truly believe unless we're willing to look at puzzle pieces, and I do mean puzzle pieces, we are highlighting the person living with dementia is the problem and we're trying to help them. And it's like, whoa, we have three puzzle pieces, they have three puzzle pieces. They have who they've always been and how they're changing.
Mhm.
We have who we've always been in our relationship and how it might be changing, not only us, but other people around. Then we have over here, we have that physical body, sensory body. Like, so as we said, I have mosquito bites. Well, actually, I don't, but I think I do because third piece over on my side, I have Lewy body dementia. So what I'm feeling is actually a false feeling, but I saw the bugs and I got bit and now I'm scratching like crazy. And if your strategy is simply to try to make me stop because you know there are no mosquitoes in here, you know that what I'm doing is actually causing myself to bleed through multiple scabs. And I go through this a lot, particularly in the evening around 6 or so. And I didn't eat much for lunch and I didn't eat much for dinner because I'm afraid you guys are poisoning me. It's like, okay, this is really to me, it's this opportunity we have to label people and continue this mythology about people living with dementia because equally in this scale, Matthew, let me do the last two things that are on this scale under physical aggression. It's actually considered aggression, tearing things or destroying property. How many of you have ever torn up a piece of paper that you thought had value because you didn't want someone else to see it? How many of you have torn up a credit card? How many of you, when you're really frustrated, rather than hurting anybody else, just rip things up or tear things up? How many of you have ever done something like that?
Mhm.
Taken, they actually have whole, what are these, like places where you can go make pottery, or you can throw axes, or you can do all this stuff.
Yeah, smash rooms. Yes, they have
Smash
smash
rooms.
rooms. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and then this last one, this is the one I find interesting. Making physical sexual advances is under physical aggressive.
Oh.
Okay. Well, now here's our physical non-aggressive behaviors that we need to be concerned about. Pace, aimlessly wandering. 13, inappropriate dress or disrobing. 14, trying to get to a different place. 15, intentionally falling. 16, eating, drinking inappropriate substance. 17, handling things inappropriately. 19, hiding things. No, 18, hiding things. 19, hoarding things. 20, performing repetitive mannerisms. And 21, general restlessness. And if you start cranking up these points, see, we start recognizing, wow, super agitated, super aggressive, super, super. And so then we start thinking, wow, what are we going to do about this? And guess what thought comes into a lot of minds in that moment? We need to give you something. We need to do something to you, because that's what we're thinking. It's all about you, not, all right, well, let's take this great big step back from, wow, if you're seeing this kind of thing, boy, we have someone in acute distress, moderate distress, high distress. I want us to stop doing this, truly. And we need a scale of distress. How distressed are you? How distressed am I? Is what you're doing annoying? Is what you're doing risky? Is what you're doing dangerous? Is what I'm doing annoying you? Does it seem risky to you, or is it feeling dangerous to you, what I'm doing, what's happening around you? Because this idea that they're wrong and we're right, we know and they don't. I could go through the rest of the scale, and maybe I should, because we have verbal aggression, screaming, making verbal sexual advances. That's considered, cursing or verbal agitation, aggression, verbal cursing or verbal aggression.
Mhm.
I'm just going to leave it there for a minute. And then we have verbal non aggressive, repetitive sentences or questions, strange noises, weird crying or laughing, complaining, negativism, constant unwarranted requests for attention or help. Oh my heavens. I am so sorry, but I find this unacceptable. I find this inappropriate. Half of the symptoms on this list are indications that the person has brain change, and the brain change is progressing. I would have an identified sort of brain state of something more like emerald, amber, ruby. The person is not really functioning as they used to. So, in this moment, and sometimes even diamond, we should be looking at, that's their brain state. Wonder what's going on here, and what am I doing? Where's my brain state? What's happening in the environment? What's happened earlier, recently? What's missing? The whole idea of problem solving versus labeling. Matthew.
And Teepa, yes, and what brought this up was one of our community members who sent this to us,
Mhm.
told us that what's happening in her area or places that she is connected with, people are sharing this form with each other and saying, here, take this, fill this out about your loved one, and take it to the
Well,
doctor, and that'll get you the meds quick.
you got it. And this all came out, unless I'm mistaken, with the reinvention and the reapplication of the famous drug Rexulti. And they used this tool, and they were allowed to use this tool, and they were allowed to identify that they went down by 3 points. Here's a reality check. I can go down by 5 to 15 points. And it's shown. We actually had a study that we did in Hawaii. We didn't do it, but one of our providers did a study, and they showed a remarkable decrease in this scale. But that was let's see, 10 years ago, back when we were using the scale. And I am sorry to hear this scale is still in use. This is not okay. This is victimizing people living with dementia. This is putting them in this labeling category, and it should stop. These categories really do misinform everyone about what is actually happening here and what could happen. There are situations when people are desperately distressed. And when that's the case, you have got to be super careful, super smart, and you need to have lots of strategies, techniques, and supportive environments to make this safer. Can it always be super safe? No. Can you make it worse than a heartbeat? You better believe it. And what I see here is drugging people for the purpose of doing things with less ability to show my level of distress, and simply drugging me for having symptoms of dementia because it's uncomfortable or unpleasant or annoying. There are so many ways to eliminate repetitive questions. You have to build some skills, though. And that's what we're about. We have champion courses, we have care partner support series, we have books, including the care partner guide that we've just redone, understanding the changing brain, conversations with our consultants. We are committed to changing this story. It is not acceptable to continue to label people for convenience. So very, very concerning. Matthew, anything you want to sort of add here?
I don't think I can at this point, Teepa.
Every time I read the tool, I get more distressed again
Yes.
because it is just simply, I mean, if you go through the long tool, it's even more distressing. How people misinterpret someone's desire and need for connection, for control, for understanding, for trying to make sense of a world that I'm finding difficult to figure out. And instead, let's diminish my capacity. So, ooh, another hot Monday. Because if we don't say something, who will? Apparently, it's becoming common practice. And common practice does not, in this case, if you ask me, involve common sense. So, till next time, take care with your care. And if we can be helpful when someone is in an acute episode of distress, please let us know. If you have a question, if you have thoughts, if you have a situation and you want more guidance, we're going to be doing Curious Conversations on Wednesday evening. So we'll be here and we're open to having a conversation about whatever we need to have a conversation about. But it's time to stop this mass use of something that really does not have a place at the table when we're talking about human beings living with the changes that come with dementia and their care partners and the lack of desire to change the status quo. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Teepa. Bye, everybody.